Yeah, welcome everyone to our breakout session, Quantum Ask Me Anything. My name is Angelina, and I am joined by two fellow young professionals in the field of quantum technologies here in Singapore. And our goal for this session is basically to introduce ourselves, introduce a little bit on the life that we lead here as young professionals in the field, what our scope is, what our research is, and then really to answer you any questions that you might have about what it is like to be a scientist in Singapore, be a scientist in the field of quantum technologies, and just our journey maybe as a PhD student or even as young professionals. So without further ado, I would love to introduce my two fellow colleagues, Anna and Ranga. And I would say that, Ranga, you can start with your presentation. And for everyone who is listening and who has some questions, you are very invited to post them in the chat or to ask in person by just raising your arm, your virtual arm. And we will pick you up. Just speak up and we will be happy to respond to you. So with that, welcome. And Ranga, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So I guess I will start with just a little bit of my background. I'm actually from just from the neighboring country, from Indonesia, but I've been spending a lot of my studies out abroad. So I did my bachelor and PhD in the US. I actually studied both physics and astronomy as an undergraduate, but I decided to study quantum as a PhD. And since then, I've done a postdoc in Japan. And since about 4 years ago, I've been a postdoc at the Center for Quantum Technologies and also at Nanyang in Singapore. So I guess we can go to the next slide. Other than doing physics and research, sometimes on the weekends, I like to go hiking. There's not much in Singapore, so I usually go to Malaysia and do photography. And in the CQT group at NTU, we also have like regular board game sessions about once a week or so. And my research, I work at the group of Rainer Domke at NTU, and there we focus on superconducting qubit research. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but the idea is we want to make a quantum processor or quantum computer. And this one, we have to make our qubit sample using microfabrication and using a small nanoscale component that's called a GYSS junction. And because this is superconducting, we have to do our experiment at very cold temperature. And for us, we need about 10 millikelvin. And this needs a special refrigeration system that's called dilution refrigerator. That's the picture that you see on the right. And I think the next one is just the picture of our group as of about last year. So with that, I will pass it over to Anna, I think.
Okay, thank you, Ranga. So good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank organizers again for giving the opportunity to present here. And I hope so far summit goes well for the participants as well. So my name is Anna Pocherova. I am a research scientist in IMRE A*, which stands for Institute of Materials Research and Engineering in Agency for Science, Technology and Research. So this is one of the institutes in Singapore. I do research in quantum optics, and my journey in quantum actually began from my undergraduate, all the way from my undergraduate. And from 2008 to 2014, I pursued my specialist degree in Moscow, Lomonosov Moscow State University in physics department. So yeah, I need to mention that actually I am from Russia. I came from Russia. And then I moved to Singapore at 2014. And so far I'm staying here, so I like it very well. From 2014 to 2018, I pursued my PhD in a joint program between A* and NTU. And from 2018, I researched as a postdoc in Institute of Material Research and Engineering. First as a research scientist, and later from 2021, I'm a group leader and I have some programs by myself. Next slide. Yes, thank you. And then my research institute has projects which I lead on quantum optics. And my research interest is using entangled photon pairs, which I generate using nonlinear crystals, which are shown in the picture on the top left. And using these entangled photon pairs, we can perform infrared imaging, but by detection of visible light. And the example of our setup is presented in the top right. And infrared imaging is very interesting for multiple applications. We would like to use it for the bioimaging as well, where you can find out some infrared fingerprints for the biomarkers and so on. And besides the research interest, I like to be active in the everyday life as well. I like jogging, volleyball, and sports in general. So actually, Singapore is very well for jogging, and you can find very beautiful landscape across the island. One of the examples is MPS presented here, and also there is a small island called Sentosa. It's also very beautiful. It's on the top right. And also Singapore is a perfect spot for traveling and for attending different musical festivals around Southeast Asia. And I also, because Singapore is a very diverse and different nationalities, and during the PhD, I get to know a lot of people from around the world and became friends with them. So we traveled together as well. And at the next slide, it's our quantum department. It's huge, but it's continuing growing. So actually, quantum in Singapore develops quite fast. Thank you. And with this, I pass to Angelina.
Thank you very much, you two. So you've heard something about NTU, you've heard something about one of our science institutes, A*STAR, and I will be talking from the perspective of a PhD student at CQT. So my name is Angelina. I'm originally from Hamburg, Germany, where I did in the vicinity my undergraduates in chemistry in 2016, followed by a master's in physical chemistry photonics in Tokyo in Japan. And then afterwards, I decided I follow my most original interest that was actually motivated, just like in Anna's case, by my graduate or my high school studies. I found my interest in pursuing quantum technologies and quantum physics. On the one hand for the applications, but also very deeply because of the philosophical and artistic implications that it yields. So right now I'm in my 4th year, and I will be happy to answer any questions on that. One of the most frequent ones from Singaporeans and international students asked alike is, why did you choose Singapore? And just maybe to answer that in one sentence, you have a huge range of cultural diversity here that is paired with an interesting research field, with the field that I am most deeply interested in the field of natural sciences. So it seemed like a very fortunate coincidence. Besides the interest that fuel research efforts, there are a lot of different opportunities for people here to become involved on track, so in the institute, in the academic environment, but also off track, so on the sidelines, outside of the office, so to say. We have a lot of community and outreach, education, science communication, events, and actually right now there are a lot of nascent efforts. So a lot of the community is developing right now, which gives us a lot of chances to take part in shaping it. On the sidelines, I really enjoy water sports, board sports, all types of exploration, which is particularly easy here in Southeast Asia, and some introspective things like drawing and illustration. One of the highlights of last year was actually being a volunteer for the Formula 1 Grand Prix, where we had the pleasure of sweeping rain off the track, because it is raining on some occasions here in Singapore. Okay, about my research, just very conceptually, I am working in the field of integrated photonics. Specifically, I have been developing a polymer-based waveguide platform for different types of application. And in the field of integrated photonics, you usually try to compress a very complicated or a rather complex optical setup to a small chip, to stabilize the chip, extend the functions, or apply new types of material studies. So with this, we would love to hear more from you, more from your interests and questions. And I would like to open the floor up to the audience and invite you to speak up if you have anything you would want us to elaborate on a little bit more. Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess there is a question for me about the superconducting qubits from VV Gendran, the number of qubits in our processor and what's the target number. Right now in our fridge, we are measuring a 5-qubit system. Of course, we want to scale it up. Our supervisor, Rainer, wants us to increase up to 20 within, say, about 2 years. But I think the focus right now is that we want to open this up. So we have a collaboration with the National Supercomputing Center here in Singapore. We want to have it open to the cloud via the Supercomputing Center. I hope that answers your questions. If you want us more, feel free. Collaboration, sure. I mean, that would be nice. We do have some collaboration with a bunch of theories about benchmarking or calibration of these devices. But it's always nice to talk with more people. Thank you. Yes, I guess I think if you look at the CQT website, quantumlah.org, you can find my email or my supervisor's email. Then you can try to contact us.
On that note, you can usually assume that the quantum environment here in Singapore is quite eager and open and happy to collaborate. So
yes.
feel invited to approach any email address you might find in this context. Will very likely yield you a response. Maybe while some people are still thinking about their questions, I would like to ask Ranga and Anna both, what were the most memorable moments in your research? Do you have something that you can remember there? Maybe Anna, you want to make a start?
Yeah, I was just recalling. So I think the most memorable. It's one time actually we started a new experiment and we didn't know how to do the experiment, how to hold the experiment, and I think every time actually finding out something new and something what you can learn and do by yourself, it's always interesting for me. And more interesting when you can actually publish this in highly cited journals, and your work is also kind of recognized. I think this is the most happiest moments I get from the research.
So basically you enjoy just the process of finding new knowledge, of discovering something, and of metabolizing this via publication, via presentation, and yes, I guess via working with other people on finding clearer answers.
Yes, exactly.
Should I try to answer?
Yes, feel challenged.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Memorable, I guess, would be probably not exactly good memory, but it's definitely memorable. It's basically I'm trying to finish up my PhD, just trying to spend so much time in the lab trying to get the experiment we need and trying to write it up. But it was good when it was finally done.
Yes, that seems like a very relatable situation as well.
Yes.
I think we have another question, a very nice question, and that is, have you had the chance to network with people outside your field? Maybe I would love to answer that also from a PhD student's perspective, because what I notice is that these are moments where you, one, of course, have a PI or you have your group that might support you to interact with people outside of your field, but it boils a lot down to your own initiative as well. And Singapore has a lot of efforts happening for people to actually connect across disciplines. We have just started an association that Anna and myself are part of, the Quantum Young Researchers Association, and it basically, in a way, brings together people from different quantum-related communities to exchange about collaborations, exchange about setups, exchange about machines they have, and how we could possibly work together to create better results. So from my perspective, there's a strong yes on the opportunities to reach out and to be encouraged to reach out on to different disciplines, different but also related disciplines in a way. And as a follow-up question, how do we look out for opportunities like this? Anna, would you like to give a comment on it?
Yes, actually, the follow-up question, comment from her. I'm actually from biology genetics, so it might be not related at all. Yeah, actually, it's right that biology is not related for quantum, but as I mentioned, in my research, I use quantum optics for the biomedical applications. And how I find the collaboration is through the conference usually. Or further networking through different Young Researchers Association, Quantum Association, and so on. So usually in Singapore, there are a number of conferences related to different topics. For example, quantum for materials research, quantum for bio research, and I think this summer there is also ICMAT conference, let's say, and there is very different topics like photonics, biology related applications, materials, and so on. So basically, through these conferences, you can find out collaborations if you're interested. As Angelina mentioned, in Singapore, usually people are very approachable and eager to collaborate.
On that moment, I think, or on that note, I think a lot of very crucial interactions happen in very casual environments, not even explicit networking events, but just social events. And we try to organize a number of these events here. So my personal message would be definitely take any social opportunity as also a professional opportunity, which is very translatable to also the field of genetics. Thank you. I would like to say that we have about 5 more minutes left for questions. So if you are wondering whether or not you should ask, now is the time to dare. And otherwise, I would also love to ask my colleagues a question, namely, if you think that there was something that went wrong during your career that really taught you how to approach something differently, like what was a very memorable learning experience for you?
Yeah, maybe I can start.
I see.
I would say that there is probably not a memorable moment of doing mistakes, but I just want to mention that making a mistake and getting, for example, results of which you don't expect, it's also a result. So you kind of learn from your mistakes, learn from your success stories as well. So I would say that making mistakes sometimes is also not a bad thing. Yeah.
I think there are like a few questions.
Yes.
So would CQT allow lab tours for people? Yeah, we do lab tours all the time, basically. there are sometimes undergraduate students visit, sometimes high school students. So contact one of us or contact any of the professors, and they usually would be happy to give you a quick tour of the lab.
Yes.
And then there is a second question about what made the panel pick Singapore. I think Anna and Angelina already mentioned a little bit in their presentation about, I guess, the diversity of Singapore and stuff. At least for me, I also have a personal reason that it's closer to Indonesia compared to other places where I've been to. And there is a lot of opportunities also in Singapore.
Yeah, actually, I think this is a great note to maybe even end on, to for us to share some thoughts that we can end on. So choosing, I think, coming from Europe or coming from a country that's a little bit farther away makes going abroad sometimes a bit challenging, just because you have to be very intentional on how you manage your vacation, your family time, how you basically prioritize certain types of bonds that you would much more naturally keep. So it's not as much a choice of convenience. But personally, I had the chance of, or the option of going to either the UK or going to Singapore. And Singapore, to me, always had an image of being a rather future-oriented, technology-oriented city with quite a low crime rate. And having spent some time in Japan, it's quite fascinating for me to see how a mega city can maintain huge diversity, future-orientedness, and a low crime rate. So besides wanting to do something that's scientifically really interesting, that scientifically completely matches what I would want to engage more, this was also a way to automatically add a cultural component. So to automatically not just be trained in the sciences, but also be trained in a bit more of a global mindset. And I think if you are interested in Southeast Asia, Singapore can be quite a benevolent entry point, simply because everything is nicely organized, and it is a great hub and starting point for a lot of exploration there.
Yes, I just can agree on everything just said. Singapore is very diverse and on culture, on food, on people. So this attracts a lot actually, just to learn this city more and more. Every time you find something new.
Yes, and it's also actually quite interesting, and I think a lot of you think about that as well. We have oftentimes institutions with a lot of traditions, with, in a way, almost centuries of academic history that whose footsteps you want to follow. Sometimes that's a personal decision to make. It can be refreshing to go to a place that seems to be well set up for the future, but doesn't necessarily yet.
Oh, I think
there is some issues.
That brings a lot of liberty with it, a lot of freedom. Oh, sorry about that.
Yep.
I just need to say that if you go to a place that offers you all the resources, but not yet the historic scaffold, oftentimes that creates a lot of liberty for you to actually write the scaffold yourself. People will have a less strong opinion on where you are aiming to go, and oftentimes that helps to facilitate a little bit more of an open-minded exchange. Of course, at the cost of having a less, I guess, historic complexity attached to your affiliation in that sense. But yeah, that's a bit on the personal background of that choice. And with that, I would like to say that we are slowly reaching the end of these sessions. I've been told that the time constraints are actually quite tightly kept. So we would have time for one final question. We have one by we have another one, and that is, does CQT have plans to partner with IBM Quantum and similar companies? And that's actually that's an interesting point, because quantum tech has this it's growing, but there is this like interface between industry and research, and I guess we are all in a way caught in the loop of navigating these two domains. And a lot of graduates actually from our field do attach themselves to IBM or other big quantum computing companies, and oftentimes, because of their experience here, have a strong interest in still maintaining some connection to CQT or to the institution they came from. So things like partnering with professional with industries is something that's definitely not off the scope for institutes here. Explicitly, all these things are, of course, like a little bit like more subtle, but in principle, something like this is not impossible at all.
Yeah, because the questions also specifically mention IBM. I think I just want to mention, I think some of the CQT theorists actually do use the IBM cloud and regularly. And then, yeah, I think that's.
Yes. Okay, and with that, I think I want to thank the audience for all the nice questions, and also my fellow speakers for attending the session, and NRF for facilitating it. We wish you all a really great final day of the summit, that you make many meaningful connections, that you gain a better idea of what Singapore's research is about, and that you feel encouraged to follow up with questions, contacting us, or contacting other people from the field here to help you realize best places and futures for you.